back from walking your dog. Her doorbell camera shows her starting to take off the dog's leash when she looks over to the rain, causing her to quickly pick up her dog and get inside. Immediately, we find out why. A man comes into the frame and walks right up to the front door. He tries to handle it, but she managed to lock it just in time. The man then starts putting on gloves, and she also mentioned how he was carrying zip ties. He looks into the house and tries the door handle multiple times within the next few minutes. Eventually, her neighbor comes outside, so the man picks up a nearby garden hose and acts like he's doing yard work. Once the neighbor left, the man walked around to the house's back door. He tried forcing the bank door open, to which the homeowner locked herself in her room and called the police. In the time it took them to arrive, the man tried breaking into almost every window of the house. He broke off the screen to one of the back windows, but was ultimately unsuccessful at getting inside. By the time police arrived, he had left. There wasn't much the police could do by that point. The homeowner ended up posting the video to TikTok in the hopes that someone could identify the man. As far as I could find, no one could. This clip shows a mother and her kids quickly packing their belongings in response to an evacuation notice. It happened in Canyon County, California, around the time wildfire was raging across the area. In the back of the footage, you can see it. Fire and smoke loom over the neighborhood in the hills behind. They pack as fast as they can, but they don't know how much time they have. Eventually, a man runs across the street and warns the family that the fire was coming up. They finally leave the neighborhood and evacuated the safety at a nearby hotel. A few days later, the fire around the home died down, and they were able to return and survey the damage. Somehow, with their house remained untouched, although the same can be said for others in the neighborhood. Multiple nearby homes were destroyed by the fire. The doorbell footage shows the explosion of a home in Arlington, TX. It was 2:00 a.m. on January 1st, 2022, when a few houses down the giant explosion goes off. The explosion was reported to have been caused by a gas appliance that wasn't fully shut off. Fortunately, no one was in the home when it happened. There were no injuries resulting from the incident. However, the damage was extensive. Not only did the house suffer major structural damage, but flying debris in nearby buildings as well. Residents in the apartments across the street reported blown-out windows from the explosion. Parts of vehicles also were damaged. The authorities received multiple calls immediately after the explosion went off. This terrifying video shows a creepy man driving a car, parking it in front of a homeowner's place before charging at the door and kicking it as hard as he could. Another man joins him in trying to break down the person's door, but amazingly, the door stays put. The two men eventually give up and go their merry way, but seeing how the man had a Lamborghini parked in his driveway makes you wonder, did these two men try to break in because they knew the man was rich? We'll never know. This clip was captured at 5:00 in the morning on October 2nd, 2022. In it, 3 men are shown standing in front of this house's front door. They're carrying weapons and wearing masks resembling the ones from the movie The Purge. One of them sees the doorbell camera and immediately puts his hand over it. For a good portion of the video, all you can see is his glove, but for a second he uncovers the camera, revealing all three men up close. They're seen leaning up against the wall and crouching low to the ground, clearly trying to stay on at the view of anyone inside. That's when the homeowner finally wakes up, telling the motion-detected notifications on his phone. He pulls up the amp, but all he sees is a glove covering the camera. Having not yet seen the earlier footage, he goes on the speaker and tries to identify who's on his front porch. The men did not respond, so the homeowner called the police. By the time the police arrived, though, the men were gone. Many believe they were trying to lure the homeowner into opening the door so they could rob him. But why then not try to convince him to come to the door when he came on the doorbell speaker? It's more likely they were trying to pick the lock while the camera was being covered. What they then plan to do when they go inside is anyone's best guess. In June of 2021, a woman posted a set of Ring camera videos to the internet. She explained how her mother had recently installed 2 Ring cameras around their house. On one of the first few nights of having the cameras, her phone would get spammed at the motion to tank in notifications. She reviewed them, and this is what she saw. Some man was walking around the outside of the house. That was something she picked up on almost right away, was how easily he was doing it. Like as if he already knew the exact layout of the outside of the house. She worried this wasn't his first time. He would walk around looking in different windows, which included hers. Seeing this, she called the cops and reported it. They later showed up, but by that time, the guy was gone. There wasn't much they could do. They just told her to keep her blinds, curtains, and windows closed at all times. She rightfully worried he might show up again, so she set up a trap of sorts outside her window. She strung a piece of rope between 2 trees, hoping the man wouldn't see it and would trip over it, making a lot of noise, alerting her of his presence. Disturbingly, exactly a week later at 2:00 a.m., she would hear someone trip over the rope. Immediately, she pulled down her phone and opened the live camera feed. Standing directly outside of her window, looking in, was the same man from before. After she saw this footage, she went up to her mother's room and told her about the man. The 2 of them went back to the window, opened the curtains, and started banging on the glass to scare the men off. They called the police, but once again, when they arrived, the man was gone. The woman and her mother ended up moving to a new house. They never heard anything more from the police, leading them to believe that he was never caught. A 10-year-old grade in Downwind is a kid from Riverton, UT. It was around 6:00 p.m. on a night in December. He was alone walking home from basketball practice this night. At some point during his walk, he noticed a 4-door sedan driven by 2 men slowly lurking around behind him. Graydon said he started walking faster when he saw it. Then the car drove up right next to him. The men inside rolled down their windows and told Great, and they had candy in the back seat trying to entice him inside. This happens only blocks away from his house. He ignored the men and only started to walk even faster away from them. A few seconds pass, and he makes it to his house. His front porch in his family's house had a doorbell camera, and as Great and approached, you were able to see the car in the background. He continues to look over at it as he walks up to the went to war. He joins the front door handle, but realizes it was locked. At the same time, the cards reverse, the lights turn on, and it starts heading toward him. Grating yells zone and quickly grabs nearby rocks to defend himself. He then runs to his next-door neighbor's house. Their door was unlocked, so he let himself in and immediately locked it behind him. The car can then be seen turning around and following him. For the next several minutes, the car lurks around the area, waiting for Groening to come back outside. Police were called, and a report was made. Great described the men as being in their 30s or 40s with no facial hair. Both Groening's family and the police have almost no doubt in believing the men were trying to kidnap him that night. This video was uploaded to TikTok to warn others to be aware of their surroundings. In the video, the uploader was a mother named Jojo, and her son Daniel are returning home late at night. They open the front door and go inside. Once they close the door behind them, a man can be seen in the frame walking up to the house. He immediately tries opening the door.
Go shower really fast. I need you to go shower. Please, Daniel. What's that?
Jojo and Daniel engage in an argument with Jojo, telling him to go shower while he says he's too tired. Yeah, this doesn't drown out the clear sound of someone grabbing the front door handle only seconds after Jojo had locked in. She looks outside and sees this man. She yells out for him to leave. The man takes one step back but stays in front of the camera. He doesn't respond, rather just stands there with a blank expression.
Who is that? Get out of here! Get out of here! There's a guy outside. Look.
It's not known where the man came from. It's hard to see with the door blocking the view, something he had been following the two back home, while others believe he was camped out next to the home, specifically waiting for them to return. Either way, what you plan to do if that door was unlocked is unclear. Jojo called the police, but the man was gone by the time they arrived, so it's likely we'll never be able to know for sure. When this homeowner got a knock on their door, it's safe to say that seeing a cow on their front walkway was probably the last thing they thought they would see. But that's exactly what happened. The large animal walked up to the door and sniffed the window and doorknob, eventually getting bored and ultimately deciding to leave. That homeowner was in for one heck of a surprise when they reviewed that footage later on. The doorbell camera footage was captured in New Orleans, LA, and showcases a strange man in a red hat wandering the streets late at night. He passes by the homeowner whose doorbell camera was filming, but turns back around once he notices a chair he liked on the front porch. He crept up the stairs quietly before stealing the expensive one. Looking chair and walking away with it into the night, let's just hope that this man is caught by the police and that the homeowner was able to replace that chair with a new one. This video was uploaded to TikTok in September of 2022. The uploader said it was about 3 a.m. when his doorbell camera captured a man walking across the street. He works directly towards the house's front porch and eventually right into the camera, at which point you can see the man wearing some kind of mask with a drawn-on mustache. The homeowner eventually woke up from all the notifications on his phone. He sees the man looking inside through his windows and trying to open his door. To this, He immediately threw on some clothes and went outside to confront the man. He didn't find him. He opted to call the police and sent in a report. Likely nothing came with this. The uploader never gave an update, but considering the man was wearing a mask, he probably won't ever be identified. A man can be seen in this doorbell camera attempting to open this homeowner's front door somewhere in Brooklyn, NY. The man tried to twist the doorknob, and at one point even seems to fiddle with the doorbell camera. So he is aware that he's being filmed, but it seems as though he simply doesn't care. Thankfully, the man eventually gives up and goes about his day, leaving the homeowner alone. This video was filmed on a doorbell camera on the front porch of somebodied Oakland, K home, and shows an absolutely terrifying moment. A suspicious stranger approaches the front door, attempting to break into the person's house. This strange person attempts to cut the tarp and unlock the front door, but thankfully was unsuccessful. The owner writes that at the time of this incident, his house was being tested for termites. So when this attempted burglar approached the house, it was currently filled with poison and tear gas. So even if the stranger did manage to break in, he probably wouldn't have survived. What a silly way to go to write guest in the house you try to rob.